c'est chic.
Welcome to day 6 of the World Masters Ultimate Club Championships. You are currently watching one of the 2 semi-finals that we have going on today in the Great Grand Masters division. We have Recycled from Georgia versus Surly, Great Grand Masters from Minnesota. I am Gigi Morrison, joined in the booth this morning by the lovely Sean Colfer. Sean, how are you feeling this morning?
Feeling good. Nice early start to watch a semi-final, world semi-final here. So we've got 2 teams from America, 2 teams who have looked good during this tournament. So I'm excited to see what they've got for us in this pretty big game.
All of the Great Grandmasters teams have been playing up against each other throughout the tournament. Both these teams have seen each other already, so they are already a little bit aware of how to play against each other, but it should be an exciting matchup. We have Surly starting out on offense. And the disc soars out the sideline, giving us the first brick of the day.
It's a little bit windy this morning. The wind coming from right to left as we're looking at it, as you're looking at it from the camera.
With Eichstadt starting on disc for Surly. Cuts coming from deep. Manages to find the number 10. Back to Eichstadt. Centers, little bubble, but manages to catch it. That was Tom. Across to Alden. Into the up the line cut from Rydell. Surly doing very well to get the disc moving this early in the morning. Little dish passes, little gives and goes. They're able to find some open receivers into the end zone for the first Surly point. That was Anderson for the score.
Yeah, nice offensive point from Surly, doing really well to just keep the disc moving. Those little inside shots just in front of the disc. They seem to set up in kind of a side stack, looking for an isolated cutter, but worked around the handlers really well. Never lost their head, like you say, Gigi. It's early in the morning. We've already said there's a little bit of wind making throws difficult, but you can just see these little pop passes just inside the mark, working it, resetting the stall count over and over again, and until they find somebody free on the front cone for the first score of the game.
And something I've loved so far at the tournament is seeing the spirit and the energy that all the teams are bringing. This is obviously the first long tournament that we've been able to have since 2019, so since the pandemic. So it must wear your body down a lot, having to play for 6-7 days of Frisbee.
Yep, I've been here playing as well. I've only played 4 days and my body hurts, so can confirm that that is definitely the case. And I'm sure these gentlemen here, they do have a few years on me, so I'm sure it's been taking it out of them, but they've been doing really, really well at keeping this level high, and it's been very competitive throughout the round robin tournament and now into the bracket play.
Yeah, a couple of physio tables set up around the pitches. I can imagine that's extremely useful regardless of whatever division that you are playing in. That is a fantastic rolling pull.
Oh my God.
Manages to get the full length of the pitch pretty much just past the brick mark. Recycled starting out on offense for their first point of the game. Sending it immediately deep. That was Hall with a deep shot. Trying to find Coppinger, but well defended. No call. Surly now have a break opportunity.
Not a bad shot for Recycle. They had someone open in the end zone. If it had maybe not sailed quite as much, but good D from Surly.
Getting the disc moving immediately. Enright. Off to McCall. Dumps it back to Butler. Surly able to generate a lot of cuts. There is a call further upfield. Macked away.
Is that a joke? I don't quite understand. There was a fist bump from a Surly player as well, so maybe he thought it was funny too. But I picked downfield. Surly offense again, recycling the disc very quickly and very nicely.
I can imagine that's only reactionary. You see the disc go past your face and you mack it away. Surly getting things moving again. McCall has the floaty backhand into Cesario. Finds McCall again, and Cesario with the quick movements. This is very classic North American style, looking for fast resets. Obviously, some players having a history of playing in the AUDL. The stall count is a slightly different format to the World Flying Disc Federation rules.
Just trying to lead pass to get closer to the end zone from Surly after that nice movement, and it didn't quite come off. Held up a bit in the wind, and it is a turnover, and Recycled have the disc back.
Recycled working downwind. Kirkpatrick on disc. Again, looking immediately deep. Has Lynn in the end zone. Can Lynn read it? But no, it is better defended by the Surly player.
That is a great block in the end zone by Enright for Surly. It looked as though the offensive player had position and he's just gone up over the top and knocked it away. It's a really, really good D.
You're also managing to completely avoid too much contact. We do often see contact, particularly from North American players. They are used to a level of physicality that us in Europe and around some other nations and continents we are not used to seeing as much in our gameplay. So they're having to work the entire length of the pitch now. Cesario finds an extremely good cut, moving a good 10 yards up the pitch, and a bit in the back from Schwartz. That was quite dangerous, but well pulled in by Sullivan.
It looks as though everyone's happy enough. Sullivan just putting his foot back in his boot to come out with the contact there.
Apologies, that was Alan. Again, I saw the number 3 and assumed that that was the correct number. Some discussion going on from that call, but Alan is comfortably taking it in on the sideline. There was an uncontested foul. Trying to look for the dump early on. Has the up the line option instead. Little collision between defenders, but standing up immediately, bouncing back. Cesario has the inside shot, tries to take it to the hands of McCall, but tips off the fingers. Recycled with another opportunity. They do have the downwind advantage. Cashin takes the break option. High release backhand, well caught by Kirkpatrick. Tries to look for the wide swing, but instead dumps back. Cashin has Laverty, but instead takes Coppinger. Coppinger looking deep. There is a Surly defender in the way, and that is a block. The cone has been knocked over in the meantime.
Yeah, that looks, there's a lot of contact on that bid, obviously. He's definitely hit the bat before the players even touch the disc, so we're coming back in with an uncontested foul here.
Quite clustered towards the front of the end zone. I think Recycled are wanting to try and isolate a player. They do so successfully, giving them the hold. Second point of the game, bringing it to 1-all.
Yeah, real attritional point, that one, wasn't it? I think that score, correct me if I'm wrong, but that looked like an upside down. We'll see the replay, but very physical game so far. We're seeing both teams relatively comfortable seeing or playing in a way that there's going to be a lot of bumping, and in some cases a bit more than bumping. There's some really heavy collisions going on out there, so both teams really want this, and hopefully they're able to work it out and get to a point where everyone's happy with it. But at the moment, a lot of contact.
Yeah, I've seen more contact from Grandmasters and Great Grandmasters games than I have from the Masters and the other seniors games. That contact did cause an errant clap catch, but Schwartz on the front end zone line did have a lot of receivers, a lot of clustering, trying to find an option. Does eventually find one, and as you mentioned, Sean, yes, that was an upside down release as you catch it throw.
Yeah, just get it out nice and quick into the receiver's path. And here we go, there's another roly pull from Recycle. Clearly both teams have kind of identified that that's the way to do this.
Surly moving the disc really well, isolated. Alden in the end zone, Alden looking deep. Has Tom. Nice and easy, super comfortable and casual from Surly.
Yeah, clearly that's the way they want to play. They try to isolate the same cutter in the last point as well. This time, a lot more space, and that shot to the end zone is absolutely beautiful. Not much you can do about that as a defender when it sails over your head perfectly to the path of the person who's running deep. When you're trying to take something away and then the team takes it anyway, it's a tough one to take. But good, clean offensive point from Surly, and now we'll see what kind of pressure they can exert on the Recycled offense, because last time around it was a tough point for the Recycled O-line.
So we have seen on this pitch in particular, on pitch 11, a couple of games have gone to downwind trades. Whether a team has been able to break or not is another thing. How have you as a player been able to react to the windy conditions here in Limerick?
It's been quite difficult. My team is a team that likes to work it quite a lot and swing it around a lot. We played a few teams that have tried to play more huck and D. I think there's definitely value to both. It's not been, since I've been here, it sounds like I missed the worst of it on the first couple of days, but since I've been here, it's not been so bad that you can't play in it. It's just been more testing, and you've had to concentrate on every single throw. There's definitely been a couple of little pop passes and short passes that have just gone up and have turned into a jump ball because there's not enough spin on them. So it's just concentrating on every single pass. But we'll see both these teams able to work this disc, because the wind is challenging. They're not going to be able to huck into it as they usually would, but it's not impossible.
Could hear the Surly sideline saying, "Oh, that was a great pull," and it was. Huge roller. They're wanting to respond to one of Recycled's pulls as well. Cashin. High flick, but thankfully does float into the hands of his receiver. Finds Cashin again. Looking immediately deep. Doesn't like his options, but instead dumps it off to Brown. Brown looking deep instead. The lefty flick, but better read by Surly. That was Allen again. Keith Allen being a name that we're mentioning quite a lot on the stream so far.
Yeah, he's been very active on D for this Surly defensive team. He's got a couple of blocks, obviously that contact later in the last point. And it looks as though, is he coming off here? It looks as though he's coming off. He's called an injury. So they've brought on one of their offensive handlers, it looks like.
I'm struggling to see the number on the kit, just because we do have a lot of players standing in the way. That is the number 8 of Joe Cesario. And the sun has come out in sunny Limerick. Remember, if you are watching from the World Flying Disc Federation YouTube channel, please do let us know in the comments. We do try and keep up as much as possible. We do have coverage all day today, a bunch of semi-finals. We have a couple of finals going on later this afternoon as well, and then tomorrow all day we have all of the Masters finals. Should be some exciting coverage coming up for you.
Yeah, some of those divisions are looking really tight, and there's been some upsets already in a couple of divisions, so should be a really fun day today. We find out who wins in the Grandmasters and Great Grandmasters divisions, and as we find out who's going to be playing tomorrow in the Masters divisions. There's a fair bit of movement here. I'm not 100% sure what some of these calls are. People taking off their hats. Do you think that's a call that the game advisor made, Gigi? I doubt it.
Possibly an equipment call. I'm not sure whether that is a legitimate equipment call, but the players get underway, moving. They are taking their time. But now, Surly on offense, trying to get that break. Has the deep option, takes it on. Well read, well received by Cesario. He was subbed on for Allen, proving to be useful already. Finds McConville. Back to Cesario. Quick pop pass again to McConville. A pick further upfield.
Do you think it might be that pick on the 41? Either way, it's nice movement from the Surly defensive line with the disc. That huck was fantastic.
Eichstadt swings it across to McCall. McCall getting the disc moving again. Surly are doing really well in using the entire width of the pitch. They have a lot of cutters, lots of receivers, and they do get the break. That is the score for Eichstadt. Surly on a roll at the moment. They have the downwind for the next point.
Yeah, really important break early on in this game. Like I say, the huck into the wind was a really, really great shot. They had two receivers going deep, easily caught by one of them, and then really patient offense in the front of the end zone until they spotted a little hole in the recycled D and put it in, and they have now got the first break. And like you say, Gigi, they've got the wind, which, like I said earlier, both teams are able to throw in this. We just saw a huck go into it, but still, definitely that pull is going to go further. It's going to sit higher. You're not going to have to throw a roller, so you can get your D down there and set as quickly as possible. This could be a big moment here for Surly, and it's a big moment early on for Recycled. They've really had to make sure that they work this around and get this into the end zone.
As we mentioned earlier on, both of these teams have played against each other earlier on in the tournament. And there are two trains of thought. Surly won the previous game. It was a very close matchup. It was on Universe. They were down by a few points before Recycled managed to give up those again. Surly taking the game eventually. And you could think, well, if Surly already know Recycled's tactics, surely it's easier for them to win a second time. But whenever you're facing off against an opponent who is hungry for the win, it can often be a little bit more difficult to get that win the second time. But Surly with an early break. That disc does roll, lands flat onto the ground again, just past the brick mark. Finds the sliding Cashin. Cashin looking immediately deep, has a receiver in the center in Justice, bounces off of his stomach. And now Cesario again on the pitch, getting the disc moving for the Surly D-line. Dumps it off to Adams. Again, quick resets. This is very classic North American style of ultimate. Jinking up the line, takes on the dump option instead. And O'Toole calling for cutters to get moving. A little bit more physicality than O'Toole wanted. Apologies, that was Butler. Butler again throws the disc, strikes up the line. The option was not on, fakes the hammer. Quick pop pass over the top into the end zone, into the hands of Tim O'Toole. Surly with their second break.
Yeah, it's a great point by the Surly D-line. It looked like the huck just came out a bit low. It hits the receiver in the stomach in the stack for Recycle, but I don't think he was the intended receiver, considering the power that was put on that. It would have been an absolutely fantastic catch if he'd made it, and Cesario ran the point from there. Every other pass, and finally gets that person free in the end zone to O'Toole, but a point really that where Cesario has kind of dictated everything and has got another break for his team there.
So Surly starting to pull away in this game. See the hammer fake there, did fake out the camera person as well. And Recycled are understandably taking a quick timeout. And just as the players take a little bit of a break, we will also take a pause, grab a drink, grab a snack, grab some breakfast, whatever you need to do. We will be with you again in a moment. Welcome back to the live coverage from Pitch 11 at the University of Limerick. From the World Masters Ultimate Club Championships, you are currently watching one of the two Great Grandmasters semi-finals going on today. We have Surly Great Grandmasters versus Recycled. I'm joined in the booth by Sean Colfer. Sean, how has the first 5 points gone so far?
We had a couple of trades. It was fairly even, although Recycle's offensive point did take a lot longer. There was a few more turns, but since then Surly have kind of put their foot down, and they have got held their offense and then got 2 breaks. So they are now going more against the wind. We're probably going to see a very rolly pull here. Oh no, they've gone with a floater instead, but 2 breaks in a row for Surly, and Recycle have taken a timeout to try and collect themselves, gather themselves, so they can put in this offensive point. And these points become more and more crucial the more breaks Surly get.
Recycle getting the disc moving. That looks like it could have bounced off of the hands of the defender, but instead it's just too light of a release, catching into the wind.
Yeah, just not enough spin on that one. You could see as it came out of the hand, it was one kind of designed to float just into the receiver's path, but in these kind of breezes, that doesn't really work very well.
Surly with their 3rd break opportunity of the match. They're stuck on the sideline. This is a tricky position to be in, but it is considered the high side here. And it's managed to get swung across the pitch. There has been some contact further upfield. A couple of players asking for them to stop. One of the defenders holding his neck.
I think it might be just an impact with the ground as he made a bid. It looked like he kind of made a diving bid to try and get onto the reset throw there. So I imagine we're just going to reset back to where the disc was and go from there.
You can see the game advisor has come onto the pitch to help assist. The game advisor's opinions are not final, something that the American players might not be used to. They can only provide some clarity on rules, their opinion on what might have occurred, but again, it is not final. It is the responsibility of the players to discuss the final decision. Surly continuing their offensive prowess. Chandler on the other sideline across to Grace. Again, we're seeing this swift and smooth give-go movement. As soon as the disc has been released, they get moving immediately. Rutledge looking for options. There has been a pick again.
Yeah, just nice offensive movement, but I think 37 just kind of goes deep, gets in the way of the defender, and it's one of those classic picks. But as you say, Gigi, they're resetting the disc here, and Recycle finding it tough to get a force on and to keep that defensive pressure on for an extended period of time. But Surly taking a timeout, relatively surprising given the situation, but I suppose they just want to talk about the offense, get everyone reset again, and try and put in yet another break.
It might be the case that some of the players are still feeling a little shaken, or they're wanting to recenter, get their offense as smooth and as slick as possible. They know that this could be quite an important break opportunity. It could swing the attitude of the game entirely if they were to get this break in again. So I'm not too surprised that they're wanting this now. Just a little bit of background about both these teams. So Surly so far have a 9-0 record, so they have 9 wins to their name. Recycled have a 6-3 record, so they have only lost so far to the other 3 semi-finalists. So they have lost to Surly already, but the other 2 semi-finalists that will be playing, I believe, currently right now on one of the other pitches. They're the only losses that Recycled have taken. Also looking at their stats sheet, Recycled's lowest spirit score that they have given is a 12.
Yeah, it does seem like there's been some very high spirit scores in the Great Grandmasters division. I think I saw a 17 given to somebody. There's been very high overall level. I think that the lowest in the division is about a 12 average. So clearly these players have been working well together and have been finding good resolutions to any conflict. So that's great. And there's oh yeah, GG's.
Recycled gave German all-time Ultimate Lovers a 20.
There we go. Well, Recycled with the disc back now, so they'll be looking to put this in and continue. I mean, like we said earlier, there's been a bit of contact. There's been a few pit calls and things like that, but both teams seem to be chatting on the sideline. Seems to be pretty happy about how everything's going. So
it is good to see that even in a high physicality game, the players are more than willing to discuss. Justies on disc. Quick high release movement. Good, dumps it off. Swift and smooth backhand into the front corner of the end zone. That is Coppinger, giving Recycled another point. They're not quite out of this game yet.
No, absolutely not. That throw from Good really opened up the field, didn't it? He swung it all the way over to the far sideline and everything was wide open from there. So trying to keep everyone pinned on this near sideline. Good throw from Good, opens it up, and now Recycled have got an opportunity to try and eat back at this Surly lead early on. But it looks at the moment as though Recycled's offense is kind of struggling to get away from the pressure that Surly are able to put on, whereas Surly's offense has been relatively clean so far. So this is an opportunity for the Recycled D to try and make a little bit more of an impact.
It could be an element of fatigue. Again, we mentioned earlier on this is day 6, so they've been playing for 5 straight days already. It is so difficult to be able to play such long tournaments. We have some thumbs up and nods from the Surly sideline. They are tired. I can imagine that they're also very excited to go along to the party. This is our last day of gameplay. We do have the official tournament party going on tomorrow evening. But Surly have been enjoying the festivities in Limerick already. Yeah,
to be fair, if you go to the bar on this venue, you wouldn't necessarily know there wasn't a party every night. It's been hopping several times so far at this tournament, which is about what I expected from a Masters tournament.
Not necessarily what I would have expected. There are lots of families here, but they are more than willing to party responsibly, of course.
Obviously.
The Surly offense now moving downwind. Eichstadt. Recycled D is looking quite poachy. Fergie. Back to Eichstadt. Recycled doing really well in getting a poach into the lane. Fergie does dump it off to Alden. Alden over to Hawk. Hawk has a lot of deep options, but instead takes it to Alden on the under. This Recycled defense is proving to slow Surly down. Not too much. There is some discussion. Oh, it was a turnover.
Yeah, it looked to me as though it hit the ground, and that is called, and that's a good spirit from both teams there.
Recycled on coffin corner. Extremely difficult position, but that break throw was a thing of beauty. Seto getting that moving for the recycled D-line offense. Lynn moves it down the pitch to Chickering. Recycled having to go to grass for that. Again, a lot of cuts being generated, not many of them are free. Surly are trying to use a clever poach option instead. Disc going deep into the end zone. There is a receiver there, but just too far out of reach. That one would have been impressive to catch up to, and I believe that there is a stall count. There will be a discussion.
Yeah, that's the first time really we've seen the recycled D-line have an extended shot with the disc, and it looked as though he's got to a very high stall. He's just tried to boom it to the end zone for a bailout opportunity, just threw it a little bit too far. Understandable in such a high stall situation. Looks as though it has been a contested stall out, but given it to contested stall out and a turnover in the end zone, disc goes back to Surly anyway, and it looked like Recycled were running some kind of FSU on that last point. The four people upfield were kind of gathered around the stack, whereas the 3 people marking the handlers were much tighter. So I don't know whether they're trying to sag off and try and create a different look. And then as we got to about the attacking brick mark, we heard a call of man from the sideline. So they were clearly in some kind of zone setup there, and it looks like they're doing it again.
It has proven to be effective in slowing Surly down. Eichstadt takes the dump. Blady flick across the other side. We have a bidding defender, and that looks painful.
Oh, right on the tailbone.
It's Alden going down to ground. The bid from Reeves. So just get a quick look at that one again. Alden already had disc in hand. Reeves had a slightly too late bid. Clotheslining Alden. Eichstadt getting things moving again. They do have the wide open receiver in Anderson. Flying bid coming through, but not able to get there. Alden milks it into the end zone, giving Surly the downwind hold, bringing the score to 5-2.
Yeah, a little bit more difficult for Surly on that point, though. That's the first time I've seen Recycle make inroads. I think it looked as though the wing on this near side towards the camera got caught right close to the disc, and as soon as they bypassed that wing and the deep tried to make a bid on the disc, and to be fair, it looked like he got quite close, but as soon as that wing gets bypassed and the deep comes underneath and they go past you, there's not a great deal you can do as a defense from there. You see the wing gets bypassed, and now you've got a 3-on-1. The deep makes a play, does get pretty close, but at that point, you've got nothing that you can do. And it's a fairly easy catch for Alden, who's been a pretty key cutter for Surly so far.
The score now 5-2 to Surly. Now in the previous matchup between Surly and Recycled, Surly were down by 3 or 4 points, but they did manage to make a comeback, so we could see that from Recycled in this game as well. It's not out of the question.
Interesting that the game has flipped slightly. It was Surly down in the previous one and they came back to win, and now it's Recycled down. I wonder whether there's been some discussion on the Surly side about whether to or how to play against Recycled, and they've worked out how to best do it.
Another rolling pull. Does it move out the side of the pitch? That has to be brought in on the sideline from where it rolled out. Checked in quickly, and Surly answering with their own poachy D. Maybe wanting to bait those longer options over the top where they can make a bid on, as we see there, the aggressive defense. Laverty over the cash-in. Slices it through the poach. Receives it again. Justies. High release backhand to Barbosa. Recycled now have flow and momentum, but that is now being stifled by stoppage.
I think the offensive players just slowed down. The defender hasn't quite anticipated it, and there's just been a little bit of a collision. Just one of those things that happens in the end zone, but really nice offense so far from Recycled.
Cuts coming to the front corner, has to be grabbed under pressure. There is more discussion. We're not seeing any hand signals.
Yeah, we see 72 from Recycle come towards the disc, and it's just someone landing on their back. to be honest. It's another bid where the only way to get there is through the offensive player. So that is an uncontested foul. We have a timeout from Recycled on the front corner of the end zone.
I'm interested about the timeout call in the front corner of the end zone, particularly when you've already used one of your timeouts for the half. If you're wanting to start to make a comeback and build that momentum, would you use a timeout this early?
I wouldn't know, especially considering you're coming in on an uncontested foul. I'd probably rather get it reset, and even if you are wanting to use a timeout, I wouldn't want to use it on the cone. You'd want to get it into the middle of the field, I would think. But I don't know whether Recycle just need to have a chat here or whether the players, to be honest, just need a break. I mean, that foul was a pretty hard one. It looks as though we do have an injury replacement. Looking at the hand signals on the field, it was pretty heavy contact in the end zone, which is not the first time we've said that from a Recycle player trying to make a catch in the end zone. Yeah,
I overheard Lorcan Murray and Benji Reese, who was streaming and commentating on one of the matches from last night. I believe it was the Grandmasters Open semi-final, and Benji was saying that there was a study done during the Next Gen Tour of how well teams are able to convert a point depending on the position that they are around the end zone. And the front corner, being on that front corner, is probably the lowest percentage, just because you are so close and you are so close to that front corner that the defense is able to just crowd around you.
Yeah.
You don't have much space to move the disc as you would do whenever you're either further centered or further away from the end zone. You basically have more space.
Because the defender's another sideline, isn't it? There's nothing you can do to one side of the field because the sideline's right there. So it limits your options immediately, straight away. And like you say, Gigi, everyone can just crowd around that front cone, and it makes it so hard to get out of it. But we do have an injury replacement there.
Recycle get themselves set up in a vertical stack in the end zone. So they're responding by doing some poachy bracketing. With Seto on the front corner, looking for a hammer over the top. Has the receiver, but just off the fingertips. That was a difficult read, being so close to the far end of the end zone.
Yeah, right at the back as well. His feet were in, but he's just kind of reaching back, knowing if he takes another step back, he's not going to catch it inbounds. But that looked like a set play. Two people going the same way, and then someone else trying to cut into the space underneath. But the poaching that Gigi mentioned from Surly worked effectively.
Cesario brings it up to the front line. A little bit of a push off from one of the cutters, but nothing phased that Recycle D. Recycle doing well, shutting down these under options. They do have a few, but they're getting pushed further back into their own end zone. Let's take the dump and swing. This is Callahan country. This is extremely dangerous if Recycle can get a bid on that disc. Enright takes the backhand break across to Cesario. Another big bid, lots of contact. They finally make it out of the end zone and they gain some ground. They have Adams. Dump it across to Foss. Cesario over to Enright. Finally breaking through. McCall finds the up line. Wide open receiver in Fensky.
There's a call there of some sort. Looks like a marking infraction. Got the game advisors over, but very slick offense from Surly there. We saw Cesario really running it in their own half, but now they're off to the races and moving it quickly through a number of different plays in the attacking half.
Yeah, we have seen a few times against the North American teams, they don't use hand signals as often. They do have game observers and they have referees in some of the more professional leagues. So transitioning to WFDF hand signals can be quite tricky. They're not as used to it. So whenever we are streaming and we're not necessarily sure of the call that's going on, we appreciate seeing hand signals, but we also understand that culturally it's very different over here than it is in the US. So Surly getting things moving again. Butler finds Cesario up the line. Zario dumps it off to McCall. Meters away from the end zone. Looking for the dump option, finds it perfectly. There's a lot of chemistry and flow between these two teams as the wind starts to pick up, race away. That disc is picked up and off from the recycled defender. The downwind opportunity now, they stop that Surly break.
Yeah, we were talking about the nice slick offense, and they were taking like short, easy options. Every throw reliable, every throw to a receiver that was kind of in stride and nice and open, but they tried to just thread one through. Cesario, who'd been excellent at that point up to then, just tried to thread one through, hung in the wind, and it was a fairly comfortable block for Recycled. It looked like the best person, the best position even to take that D. And now it looks as though we have another injury replacement coming in as we get ready for Recycled's O-line to go back out again. Going back to the hand signal thing as well, Gigi, I would guess that the hand signals were invented like quite a long time after most of these guys started playing. Like the hand signals haven't been a thing for that long, and most of these guys must have been playing for quite some time at this point.
If anyone could let us know in the comments if you do know when the WFDF hand signals were introduced, we'd very much appreciate it. We do have a fact sheet, but we don't have that fact in front of us. But Surly generate the D. Get things moving again. Adams does find the receiver in Enright. Enright across to Butler. Enright going up the line, doesn't have to bid, thankfully, but into the front corner of the end zone. Surly with another break.
Yeah, really good offense around the back again. Surly moving the disc really quickly after the Recycled scuba didn't quite work on their own end zone line. But that Surly offense, both on the O-line and the D-line, is really tough for Recycled to handle at the moment. The quick resetting, the quick movement, short, sharp passes in those little 10-yard boxes. They're getting a load of joy from it, and Recycled just struggling to keep up.
Yeah, that stumble from the Recycled defender was dangerous for Surly because it meant that they had the entire break side completely free for that up line, floating in towards the end zone, and then thankfully the continuation cut was there to give them the score.
So Surly with the wind again, another shot at a break, and at this point it starts becoming really difficult for Recycled. It's tough at this stage of a game to kind of get yourself going again, to get yourself up for this point. You know you're 4 points down. You know there's a long way back from here, but it's got to start somewhere, and Recycled really have to start putting in these offensive points with a little bit more accuracy and a little bit more composure, I think. They're just rushing things a little bit, taking shots that aren't always necessarily on. And at the moment, Surly are taking advantage of every single mistake that Recycled are making.
I would love to see Recycled use the deep more often than they are currently. And again, if you watch back some of the other games from this field, teams that have been down initially that start to make a comeback, it's because they start taking on braver options. They're using their overheads, they're using their deep shots, and they trust in their systems more often rather than relying on the quick give-go passes, which can be extremely effective. But when you've got a defensive pressure from Surly, it is quite clearly not efficient. But Recycled off to the races. Strong glove game from Recycled, moving it upwind. They have Reeves. Reeves off to Coppinger. Finds Good. Good with a huge play, and it is caught in the end zone for the upwind hold. That is so good for Recycled.
Yeah, I said they needed to put it in with a bit more accuracy, and they were very, very accurate in that point. That was really, really good from the Recycled offense. No turns. It looked as though Surly were kind of trying to push them deep, and they were handing people off. They were trying to push them into what you were talking about, Gigi, trying to push them into hucking it deep. But Recycled were able to work it all the way through, and a really good catch in the end zone for the score.
They're good with the pinpoint perfect flick.
Just dying in front of the receiver, isn't it? It's just being pushed down by the wind, but it's a great read and a great catch.
And I mentioned strong glove game. One of our sponsors for the tournament is Friction Gloves. Friction Gloves have been used a lot in this weather as the rain is starting to thunder down. Friction Gloves get grip for your game in the wind, in the rain, in the mud, whatever conditions you are playing in. Maybe not in the extreme heat, that would be sweaty.
As a person who sweats a lot, they actually are really useful because your hands sweat. So, well, my hands, not everybody's hands, but sweaty people's hands sweat a lot, and you lose some of your grip on the disc, so it actually takes away that as a variable.
I've had that before where I've had really sweaty fingers. I was playing indoors and went to throw a flick, and rather than throwing it in front of me, it went straight behind me, just slipping out my fingers. Not a fun time, and I can imagine that in this rain, having slippy hands, not the best thing to focus on. So instead, Surly wanting to focus on getting this upwind hold, the recycled. We're able to get in the previous point. Furigay has a streaking defender, but Hawk is not phased whatsoever. Recycled again coming out with this poachy set. Ridgely over to Eichstadt. There is a foul call on the throw. A little bit of argy-bargy.
Yeah, looks like the defender, whose feet were definitely set, is saying that the thrower had to push him away to get that throw off. We see it here. He's set there and says that there was a little bit of a shove, and to be fair, there was a little bit of a shove. So I see why that call was made. But yeah, this, as people in the UK might differ the name around the world, but this FSU is a tight handler mark on the three handlers, and then you have a diamond around the stack. So one person underneath and one person deep, and two other people kind of trying to shut off continuation on the wings. And it seems to be working quite nicely for Recycled here.
We won't tell you what FSU stand for. That's not,
no.
It's not PG-13.
It's true.
This is a family show.
Could be Florida State University, Recycled from the southeast. Let's go with that.
Perfect. So disc coming in, stalling one. Surly find the dump. Over to Hawk. Hawk looking to Alden. Alden is completely free on the wide. Anderson. There's quite a few cuts coming, but again, really well marked out. Eichstadt not concentrating, slip of the fingers. Recycled have an opportunity for the downwind break now. Gone to turf, but keeps the disc moving. Has the power position, decides not to take it on. The wind really picking up, wanting the deep, takes the leading throw, but again, off the fingertips. Another Huck option over the top of Anderson. That does put Surly in a better position if they can generate the D. But there is another foul call.
Yeah, that previous foul call where, the previous D where Recycle got the disc, I thought there was a call because the player went to go and fetch it so quickly. They got the offense moving really quickly where it didn't seem like they had an advantage there. But back with Surly now, and looks like some discussion. They're just waiting for people to get back into place.
It appears to be uncontested.
Yeah.
Our camera unfortunately didn't get the best view. There were a lot of players standing in the way. Surly get the disc moving. Eichstadt. Break side backhand. Has that floating into the end zone. Surly get the upwind. Continuing their margin to widen.
Yeah, once they got it over to that break side, it was nice offense. They had it moving around. You could see just nice uncontested passes out into people's paths. But that was a tough point, and this hybrid zone look from Recycled is certainly asking more questions of Surly than they were being asked earlier in the game. And it could be a route back into the game for Recycled, because what they need turns, and they are generating it with this zony, poachy set.
Yeah, the Recycled D is slowing Surly down, but it's not stopping them.
No.
From an FSU, what you're wanting is to force a team to take on those aggressive shots, making them more hesitant to do the quick pop passes. and the dump and swing movement. But we're not seeing Surly not taking those shots. They're still taking them on. So I think Recycled have to up the ante a little bit if they are going to put on an aggressive zone. Be more aggressive. Try to really get yourselves in the way. Stop and slow down those dumps and swings. So they have to do the overheads. They have to do the deep shots, which are more easy to get in the way of.
Yeah, what you're looking for from that set is tight handle marks, funneling everything to the middle, and you want the other team either trying a hammer or a big inside shot to the other sideline, and then your wings are the people getting the blocks. That's where you want your defenders really looking to gamble and get those blocks, because an FSU is not a containing zone. It's a very aggressive zone. So they're getting turns, but they're going to need to up the aggression slightly if they want to get back into this game, given the Surly lead.
Recycle just bobbled that disc off the hands of Kirkpatrick. Surly have a really good position here. There has been some sort of pick call. Surly are very excited about the goal, but there is a call.
Yeah, it looks like we're coming back. Some discussion about whether it affected play. And it has been decided it didn't affect play, so it's a goal.
Super swift, super smooth and slick. That has given Surly the half.
Yeah, you can see the pick. It happens in the stack there as the offensive player has already beaten his defender underneath. I think it's a good call from both teams to say it didn't affect play and to move on from there. But that is about as good a half as Surly could have expected coming into this game. 8-3 is a commanding lead in the semi-final of the World Championships.
The Recycled have a lot to answer for. They will be starting on offense for the second half. So they've got a lot of hard work to do ahead of them. Surly 8-3, taking half. And just as the players take a quick break, get themselves reset, maybe have a good chat with the physio, get some snacks on, we will also be taking a break. We will see you in 5 minutes. Welcome back to the second half of the Surly versus Recycled semi-final in the Great Grandmasters division at WMUCC from the University of Limerick. I am Gigi Morrison and I'm joined by Sean Colfer in the booth today. Sean, can you tell me a story about the first half of this game?
A story, yeah. So one team from Minnesota and another from Atlanta or from Georgia, the kind of greater southeast area, have turned up to Ireland to play Frisbee in cold, wet conditions. One team has been more successful in doing so. Surly, with the team from Minnesota, with a heavy lead at the moment, 8-3. It looked as though early on Surly's offense was fairly clean and not being too troubled by either the conditions or the Recycled D. That changed later on. Recycled were able to put some more defensive pressure on, but the story of the game so far really has been the pressure of the Surly D-line on the Recycled O-line. Recycled's offensive points have all been, barring maybe one, slog. There's been a lot of turns, there's been a lot of pressure. They haven't been able to work through and take the options that they want to be taking. They've been forced into second and third options. And it's been a tough game. There's us. Hello, how's it going?
Hello.
You can see us under our nice tent because it is raining and it is windy and the conditions are not enormously pleasant, but as I was saying, yeah, Recycled's offense has been creaking against this Surly pressure, and really up to this point that's been the story of the game, and that is why Surly are 8-3 up.
Recycled starting out on offense for this second half. We have seen from Recycled's D-line they've been setting up some sort of poachy zone. Sean gave an excellent rundown of the ins and outs of how the zone should work. It has not been able to stop Surly. It slowed them down, definitely, but not stop them entirely. Obviously, we see the scoreline now being 8-3, so they having been the dominant side so far, but Recycled have the downwind on offense for the start of the second half.
Likely, I think we'll see another roly pull, but I have to say both teams are absolutely excellent at roller pulls. They've all been really, really good. All been going out near the brick mark, generally on the sideline. It's been very good.
We do see a floater instead, but again, fantastic path just outside of the pitch. And that will be taken as a brick.
Almost another excellent pull. Standard of pulling so far been very, very high.
This wind, whilst we do say upwind, downwind, it is actually quite swirly, so it's difficult to predict. You can throw it in one straight direction, but that doesn't mean that it's going to go where you intend it to. So Reeves getting everything started for Recycled. Coppinger dumps it off, finds it again. Recycled moving swiftly and smoothly. That is Lynn on the sideline. Lynn with the matching sleeves, that was down. Surly with the upwind opportunity for a break. Cesario goes to grass, thankfully picking that one up, dumps it off again. Looking for options, takes the dump instead with a swing over to, I'm on the wrong roster, there we go, Adams. McConville, high disc, tall receiver. McCall finds Cesario up the sideline. There is a pick call, or that was just a straight turn, bobbled out the sideline.
It looked like it was working really well for Surly there. There are some O-line players, I believe, on this line who might not have played in a little while or wanted to get a bit more pitch time, but looked like it was working really well, and Cesario just bobbles it out the side of the pitch.
The Justies swings it across to Coppinger. Coppinger finds a huge backhand into the middle of the pitch, intended for Lynn, but well defended by Surly.
Great bid, good clean bid as well. No call there.
Cesario and Tom get that moving. Tom slicing up the line. Takes the backhand shots to Grace. Grace not currently being stalled. It looks like there is an equipment call.
Haven't seen an equipment call stop play in a long time.
Probably because it's not a stoppage. It's allowed to be involved within a stoppage.
Yeah.
Disc check back in. Tom pivots, takes the backhand break. Surly working really well, getting really close to the front end zone. Has a few options, takes the dump instead into Tom. Has Cesario. Cesario and Tom moving the disc. They will be pretty much every other pass. Has the break side option, takes it on. Surly with another break, extending their margin to 9-3. There is some sort of call, but well discussed. It is still being counted as a goal.
Yeah, it's a really nice offensive set again from Surly. They're so patient, they just work it around and wait for the opening. We see here, huge bid coming in from the recycled defender, but that just leaves a spot open for Surly to throw it over the top. But another point where Surly have got 2 turns there, and on both turns, their offense was so smooth and so slick. It was just a difficult to handle pass right on the sideline that's just bobbled out the side. But other than that, they've been moving around with relative impunity. They've been able to take quick options, reset the force, and not give Recycled a second to settle and get their defense ready to go. And at the moment, Surly's offense is just too slick for Recycled to handle, I think.
Yeah, Joe Cesario and Don Tom being the 2 handlers, keeping movement for that Surly defensive line.
Yeah, Cesario played a line point at the beginning, has been playing D-line since, and has been really crucial to getting that disc moving for this Minnesotan team.
So very different game from what we've seen previously results-wise from these teams. They have faced off against each other earlier on in the tournament. Surly taking that win on Universe against Recycled. They were down initially, but they're not wanting to be down in this game. They have had a dominant first half and already an early break. Recycled now having to answer a lot. Kaminsky dumps it into Laverty. Laverty finds an option up the line to good. A lot of defenders in the way. That's in between 2 receivers, but Surly picked that off. O'Toole. Backhand into the end zone. Do they have the receiver? They do! Is that Cesario again?
It is indeed.
Cesario racking in the stats.
Yeah, Surly telling us we could just say that for the rest of the game. Cesario again, over and over and over again. And for anybody who watched the London Invite, Ulti TV's coverage of the London Invite, that was a very familiar defense by Surly. That was a 3-person cup transition for 5 passes until they got to the sideline. They switched to match, and like Gigi said, it was just a throw that was tried to be threaded into a little gap, and they picked it off. And again, that offense looks pretty straightforward, doesn't it? There's no real pressure on some of these throws because Surly are flying, and Recycled, when things start going wrong, I'm sure everybody watching has been in that position. When things start going wrong, they just continue to go wrong. It kind of snowballs, and it feels like everything's falling apart. They have some time here. They can definitely pick this back up. They've shown before they're a very good team. They're very capable. We've seen some moments in this game where they're moving around really nicely and taking advantage of the break side, but they are really rapidly running out of time.
Yeah, definitely feel like Recycled can take a page or 2 out of Surly's book of defense from that zone. Surly being a little bit more aggressive compared to Recycled whenever they put on that same zone. Recycled wanting to take the slicing break through the cup, but it was easily picked off. That pull stays in bounds just in front of the end zone. Surly opting for poaching match instead of setting up a zone, as Recycled are working the disc downwind. Cashin finds the dump, really well sat forehand across the pitch. Takes the under to Lynn. This floats down, but Coppinger picks that one up comfortably. Woodhoff. Woodhoff running out of options, still counts rising, does find Coppinger, but there is a call.
was like a pick that didn't affect the play, so it's going to stay where it is. Oh, no, we are going back.
Game advisor getting involved again. As the wind picks up, I'm having to put on another layer. It's getting quite chilly.
There's an indication it's a pick, but the game advisor just said the stall should be coming in on 7, which isn't possible on a pick. So is it an offensive foul?
I would imagine so. Under the WFDF rules, picks should come in at a maximum of stalling 6. So recycled in the end zone. Lynn was wide open, the Surly defender on the ground.
Looks like there's another pick called.
Some players calling foul. Seto did have the assist for that one, if this one will stick. Seto's cut set up really well. There's a quick buzz switch from the defenders. Yeah, there was a little bit of a nudge there.
So it's an uncontested offensive foul. So we are coming back in on the sideline. And everyone moving too quickly.
Seto is now having to work against the wind, but does so comfortably. Defender is on the ground. Recycled though, do punch in another point.
Yeah, much needed hold for the team from the southeast. A good catch in the end zone there. Under pretty considerable pressure. It was a nice bid from the Surly defender, and that is a good hold for a team that desperately needed one. And now we're going to see the recycled D-line go out and try and put pressure on this Surly offense. They need to start a roll here, don't they, Gigi? We need to see a turning of the tides that hasn't so far looked like coming, but as we said earlier, there is time for them to get back in this game.
And we have seen Recycled do well in the upwind direction. So it's, again, not out of the question. They could start to really cause Surly some harm. See a couple of people set up on some chairs on the sideline, wanting to support their teams, or just catch some great frisbee.
Hardy souls, considering this this inclement weather.
It's getting quite blustery now today. We will be having a patch of not the nicest weather coming along later on, but always adding to the drama here in the fields at the University of Limerick.
I have a game at 1 o'clock, so I'm not very happy to hear that.
Good luck. Now Recycled. Again, as you said, Sean, they will probably come out with a rolling pull.
No, they've zipped it again. Both teams kind of resorting to the more traditional floating pulls this half.
Every time we predict the rolling pull, they go for a floater. Maybe we'll have to predict the floaters and we'll get the rollers.
They're listening to us and just spiting us.
So Ridgely gets the disc moving. Hawk on the sideline. Surly off to the races. So slick and comfortable. Recycled having to catch up to their marks. They do have a wide open Ridgely here in the dump position. Alden takes it. From the sideline, can hear that Recycled are most likely doing a force middle. Over the top into the hands of the number 34 of Hawk. Surly with a comfortable hold. 0 turnovers, 0 calls. That was probably one of the cleanest points we've had so far.
There was, and it's a great time for Surly, but a terrible time for Recycled. I think another situation where it looks like they're trying to play a zone and the wing pinches in a bit too much, and Surly come right past them on this near side. And once they get into the attacking section here, they've been so clinical throughout the whole game. It's going to be tough for Recycled to stop them, and they take advantage of those inside lanes in a really nice way to get through the middle, leaving a pretty open shot into the end zone there.
Oh, nice comfortable jump in. Most casual spike as well. You catch it, you let it go, you walk off.
Just cool.
I think that's the theme of great Grandmasters. It's everything is just really cool.
Or is it just low effort and it just looks cool because it's low effort?
Probably a combination of the two.
Could be, could be.
I know I could never look that cool, but I also put in no effort to anything, so by default, does that make it cool?
It might do. Maybe other people are looking going, look at Gigi. No effort, cool.
Surly, looking by their body language, they could come out with a zone again.
A lot of chat, isn't there?
Either that or they're just wanting to have a good old catch up and natter on the on the end zone line. That is the rolling pull that we were calling earlier on, but
it's an absolute bullet, isn't it?
Not the best one that we've seen so far. It is going to be brought in further down. It's Cashin, one of the main O-line handlers for this recycled side. And as we called it, Surly are in a poachy D. Recycled looking deep. Decide not to take it on. Dump it off across to the high side instead. Cashin with the safe hands. Scuba over the top. Casually caught. Dumped across to Coppinger. Coppinger looking deep immediately. Has somebody in the end zone, but it's just too short.
Yeah, had the receiver there, but just too much edge on the disc and it pushed it down in the wind.
Break shot across the other side. Well caught by O'Toole. Cesario finds McConville. So they try to find their options, going for the give-go up the line. Again, going up the line, but that's too much for O'Toole to get. Made the save and grab earlier on, but can't save that one.
Just a little bit too low.
Cashin finds Coppinger. Chooses to dump again. Cashin and Coppinger keeping the disc moving between the two of them. Brown swings across to Josties. Josties looking a little deeper, but Coppinger takes it on the under. Cashin gains a good few yards. Recycled knocking on the door of their end zone. Shapiro has a few options. Couple of slow feet. People are getting tired. That looked like that was a tired option.
Yeah, there was it a push pass over the top? It certainly didn't look it span like a usual pass that we've seen from Cashin throughout the game, and the receiver just couldn't quite wrap his hands around it.
Cesario with the break. And again, Surly finding the open spots in this Recycled defense. Recycled have tried to set up some sort of poachy D themselves, but Surly are just able to break the force with absolute ease. Cesario having to go to ground, but again, not able to save it. They are in a more advantageous position if they can switch on their D. Both sides looking tired after a few turns now. Coppinger finds Cashin. Across to Brown. Brown for a backhand over onto the break side for Shapiro. Shapiro with the bright yellow gloves. Stall count rising, having to go for a bailout option, but thankfully caught by Whitcomb. Defense slowing Recycled down. Cashin looking again onto the open side, has the receiver. Well caught by Josties. Fantastic cut set up.
That was such a tough point though for the Recycled offense, wasn't it? They had to work so hard to get there. They had to work really hard for every single yard. And when they gave it up it looked as though Surly were pushing downfield with a lot more ease and just 2 throws slightly outside the reach of the receiver. But it doesn't matter how you do it. That's another point for Recycled and another point closer to narrowing this gap. But time rapidly running out, and they really need to start getting breaks of the Surly offense. I don't believe at this stage they have any breaks of the Surly offense, and that trend is going to have to start now.
Yeah, looking at our stat sheets, you are correct. They don't have any breaks, but they could do. Again, we have seen them work upwind comfortably, but Surly on the downwind have had the cleanest offense in this game. Score now 11-5. Time cap will be going off at 100 minutes. That is just over 25 minutes away now. So plenty of time for Recycled to apply more pressure. If you are enjoying the coverage, please do stay active in the comments. We do keep our eyes on it as much as we can. The footage and streaming brought to you by the World Flying Disc Federation, supported by Ulta TV. Surly, before I could even look up from my page, super comfortable offense.
Yeah, and Olden shot deep. They basically worked it into the middle with 3 passes after the pull. Olden shot it deep, and that's it. Recycled O-line's back out. I mean, we've said earlier they need to start making inroads, but it's not going to work if you're going to leave Paul Anderson wide open in the end zone to let him catch it and get your O-line back out there. This D-line has been struggling throughout the game, and as we see here, pass, 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 deep shot, no pressure. Great for Surly. This is exactly what they're after. Get these points over, keep the O-line nice and fresh, just in case we do get to a bit more of a slug later on. But the D-line has been fantastic for them, and it looks like there must be a timeout because there's a long gap here for these Surly players before they run to the line.
No, they seem to be getting themselves set now. That disc from Olden, even though it's downwind, it should be easier. It can often be a lot harder for you to have to sit that disc not too zippy, giving it enough touch, making sure that it floats in the right way to sit further onto the break side to make it easier for the receiver to catch it. That was perfect.
It was perfect.
Surly now ready to pull. Really good pull for the upwind. Seto fielding it well. Coppinger back to Seto. Seto has quite a few options, but still can't rising, forcing a really good job in slowing him down. There is a call, but the disc will stay in the hands of the Recycled receiver.
And no cash in on the field for this O-line for Recycled. He's been a key handler for them so far.
Coppinger fakes, chooses to take the celerity. Seto having to attack that. And a wide open good taking the arcing forehand. Has a receiver in the end zone. Well read under high pressure from Surly.
Yeah, it's a really nice read from the receiver. Catches it with the left hand, goes up nice and early just ahead of the defender. And it looked for a moment as though the wind was going to catch that good throw and push it along, but it was perfectly placed, perfectly weighted. And another quick hold. 2 quick holds in a row, and Recycled definitely need to channel that spirit and really aggressive with the disc when they try and get it back off Surly.
I'm sure Surly wouldn't mind too much if this could be just the continuing pace of this game. Quick cold, trading back and forth until they hit 15. But obviously Recycled won't give that up too easily. That grab was so good. That was the number 67 of Jason Kirkpatrick.
With the right hand as well, my left. Stupid brain.
It's been a long week, Sean.
It has been a long week.
It's been a long week. For players, commentators, volunteers alike. Huge shout out to the volunteers that have been able to keep this tournament running. Over 120 volunteers at this tournament helping to support everything. Again, thumbs up from the sideline. Surly, they're also saying thank you. WMUCC being a fantastic tournament.
Yeah, volunteers have been great. It's been really good having people on the sideline kind of monitoring things like time limits and keeping track of who's been scoring and all that kind of stuff. It's been really useful. So thank you to all of them.
So Ridgely fields the pull, sends it across the Rydell. Just off the tops, just off the fingertips of Tom. Tongue twister there. But Cashin back in on the field for the recycled D-line. A simple drop. It's very difficult for me to see right now, but another long disc looking for Anderson. Anderson again on the receiving end of another long shot for Surly. Beautiful work. Some heads turning in confusion, but that point is being given. Surly bringing and widening the score to 13-6.
It's a fantastic deep shot, isn't it? And just two drops that where people taking their eye off it. I think the wind picked up slightly in the middle of that point, and certainly the first one from Tom, he's just looked at the disc, and then at the very last minute he's turned to see what his next throw is, and it just bounced off his fingers. And I think the other one was just died in the wind a bit, but that throw deep is an absolute peach. Can't really do much better than that in this kind of wind, in this kind of game situation. Just put it out in front of the receiver and let him run onto it, and it was a great score for Surly.
So 2 points away from Surly taking this game. We're just under 20 minutes away from the game cap. But Recycled have started to ramp up the pressure. They're showing that they can also be slick and smooth on offense with a clean hold from their previous offensive points.
Yeah, and the fact that they've switched Cashin over to the D-line shows that they know that they need to get that point as well. He's back out here on the O-line. I would suspect that some of the players that we've been saying the name of a lot on the Recycle team are probably going to be playing a few more points here.
You mentioned Cashin. So far he's had, well, before this game he's had 14 assists for the Recycled side. Surly coming out poachy with this aggressive FSU defense, but Cashin slicing through across to Seto. Seto finds Coppinger. Back to Seto. Over to Laverty. Defense staying really tight. So they are starting to transition over to match. Force shutting everything down for Seto. That is a high disc and reeled in by O'Toole. Surly with the upwind chance. They have Cesario. Cesario being huge for the Surly defensive line. Cesario is currently unmarked. They realize how difficult he is to mark. Dumped across to Butler. Over across to O'Toole with extremely safe hands. Finds Cesario. Quick give and go. Getting closer to the end zone. Butler. Backhand across into the end zone. Surly 1 point away from taking this game and moving into the finals.
Everything Surly are doing at the moment just looks crisp. That cup transition again, 7 passes, and as soon as 7 was shouted on the sideline, every single person switches into match mode. You can see people pointing at who they're marking, and that little pop over the top works in still conditions, but not enough spin on it for wind like today. And Surly take it away and work it up the field with, again, seeming ease. The way they move the disc around the back here is just so impressive. The stall count can't have been higher than 3 or 4 on pretty much all those passes, and that is about as wide open a shot to the front of the end zone as you're going to get in a world semi-final with the score as it is now. 14-6 to Surly, and it looks as though it's more a matter of time than a matter of what the outcome will be.
So if you were in Recycled's position right now, how would you adjust and respond to Surly's dominant performance so far?
I think given the game situation where it's very much a case of there is nothing that we have to lose here, because we're 14-6 down, we need 9 points in a row to take this game. I feel as though what I would try and do, given how well Surly have been moving the disc, in those short spaces is just say we are sitting 2 yards underneath everybody. We're pushing everybody deep. If they want to go over the top of us, then they can give that a go. We haven't seen that from them too much. We've seen a few nice long shots, but what we've seen more than anything else is those grinding 5-10 meter passes that Recycle have just not been able to stop. So it's dialing up the aggression to such an extent where you very well could get burned. But as I say, at this stage, what do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose, indeed? That pull soars high. Good fielding. Hendricks dumps it over to Lynn. Lynn has the upline option. And Kaminsky. There's a pick downfield. One thing I've thought about as well is that the benefit of hand signals, that you can obviously see that players are stopping, but you can identify that something is going on with the fact that people have their arms in a certain position. You can recognize that. Whereas without the hand signals, you're having to rely mostly on sound. But Recycled in the end zone do work it upwind perfectly. Surly are now going to have to work upwind yet again. Recycle coming out with their D-line now.
Yeah, a good shot into the end zone. 2 receivers there, so there was some backup. Thankfully, there was a bit of communication as well, and they didn't knock it out of each other's hands. That would have been tragic, but a good point for Recycled. A nice clean hold, and now the pressure is on Surly, but they do have a number of opportunities here to close this game out.
That shot into the end zone. He has 2 receivers. Thankfully, both of them read it perfectly well. Only one Surly defender getting in the way. Not quite well enough.
We see a Relics player on the sideline here, potentially scouting.
That must mean that the Relics semi-final is over. Let's have a quick look. We don't have any scores.
Yeah, they're playing No Country. All 4 teams in the semi-finals of the Great Grandmasters Division American.
So that'll be at least 1 gold medal for the USA. And a silver and a bronze.
True, all 3 medals. I believe Relics are the national champions.
Nice pull to start off this Surly offense. Hawk fakes, takes a really good OI under. Finds Eichstadt. The cuts are coming, but they're not getting close enough to the disc. The stall count is rising, but Grace was there on the sideline. Ridgely dumps off to Alden. Eichstadt takes the inside again to Alden. Alden having been one of the saviors for this Surly team. Eichstadt meets his way into the front of the end zone. Grace gets the score for Surly, taking the win. That is 15-7. Surly are into the Great Grandmasters final against one of the other US teams. We cannot confirm who that is quite yet, but please do stay tuned to the coverage later on in this tournament.
Yeah, another really good point for Surly, and that point kind of highlights the rest of the game, doesn't it? It was a clean offensive hold for Surly, good disc movement, moved it early, moved it fast, and Recycled were just not able to get anything set up, not able to get close to any of these discs, and Surly, with an absolutely excellent offensive performance, through to the final.
Thank you very much for everyone tuning in this morning in windy, rainy Limerick. That is the Great Grandmasters semi-finals. Surly, Great Grandmasters through to the finals. That will be going on later on today. Thank you very much for tuning in. I've been Gigi Morrison, joined by Sean Colfer in the booth, and please do remember that this coverage is copyrighted World Flying Disc Federation 2022. Please do stay tuned. We have a lot of coverage coming for you later today, and have a lovely day. Thank you very much.
See ya.
fáilte.tv